Cupid doesn't like, but you wanna unless you give it a try, give it a try. But you wanna unless you give it a try. Hey, girl, if I tell you I need you, that doesn't mean that I don't care.
What a,
And if I tell
oh
you
God, it's still
I
going. Okay.
feel,
Yeah.
don't you think that I will never be there here? Cupid.
Is that a real song? Is that a Drake
One of
song?
my favorite songs of all time.
Your songs?
Nope.
Who sings them?
112.
Let's let them sing it.
I'm so freaking pissed right now. This is bullshit.
Hello there, villagers. Welcome back to another video here in Stacy's Random POV. Today, as promised, I told you guys I was going to keep you in the loop of this whole Luigi Mangione situation. And if you haven't been caught up already, Luigi Mangione is the gentleman who got accused of murdering the CEO in Manhattan late last year in December, and then was later on caught in an Altoona McDonald's. So then he was arrested in Pennsylvania. Then he was extradited to New York. I have a bunch of videos talking about this exact situation. The links will be in the description bio. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe and the post notification on, because you never know when I'm going to be posting an interesting story such as this one. Well, there is news to be shared in regard to this Luigi Mangione situation. And I will be reading the updated information through CNN's website. As you can see, it is slowly playing in the background, so bear with me. This is really me reading everything verbatim, because I don't want anything to be misunderstood or anything of the sort. And then I will give you guys my opinion regarding this entire situation. And always, I will play you guys reactions of other creators on TikTok who had something to say about this matter. But let me know what you guys think about this situation so far, about everything that's happening with Luigi. How do you guys feel is being handled by the government, by the system, right? We already know this is not the federal court just yet. This is the state. Okay, let's not get it confused. The federal court is still haven't had a chance to say and discuss this matter. This is strictly just the state court time, and then when they're settled the state court, he still have other court dates to fulfill with the federal government, as well as with different states, with New Jersey and so forth and so on. I don't know what New Jersey has anything to do with this. I don't know, but we will find out as this story develops and continues. Alrighty, so here we go. So as mentioned, this is the reading from the CNN article from his court date that just happened, the September 16 on Tuesday. So this is the latest information that just came out regarding Luigi Mangione's case. Alrighty, let's start. The Manhattan District Attorney's terrorism case against Luigi Mangione fell apart on Tuesday as a New York judge found the evidence had not established he committed a terroristic act by allegedly killing United Healthcare CEO. The decision to dismiss the two top charges against Mangione, murder in the first degree in furtherance of an act of terrorism and murder in the second degree as a crime of terrorism, marked a victory for the 27-year-old who could have faced a mandatory life sentence. Still, he faces a count of second-degree murder that could result in a sentence of 25 years to life if convicted, and a separate federal death penalty prosecution. There was no evidence presented of a desire to terrorize the public, inspire widespread fear, engage in a broader campaign of violence, or to conspire with organized terroristic group, Judge Gregory Carro wrote on his decision Tuesday. The killing of Brian Thompson was very different, he said, from the examples of terrorism laid in the New York statute. Prosecutors cited to charge Mangione with terror-related murder charges, in part because his alleged act targeted just a single person. Additionally, while the state had stressed the ideological goals of Thompson's killing, that was not sufficient, Carroll wrote, to fit the definition of terrorism. To CNN legal analysis Joey Jackson, the judge's decision was not surprising and very courageous. It's a well-reasoned decision, in my view, Jackson said. I think it's a decision that the judge really justifies in terms of the fact of the facts and the law. And I think that it took a lot of courage for a judge in a very high profile case not to be like, whatever, is close enough, let's go. That's not what this judge did. A spokesperson for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg told CNN the office respected the court's decision and will proceed on remaining 9 counts, including second-degree murder. Carter's ruling changes the dynamic of the case against Mangione, Jackson said. This now is a garden variety murder case, he said, saying he did not intend to discount the gravity of Thompson's killing, but what prosecutors must prove has now been streamlined, he said. Rather than proving terrorism, Jackson said they must prove the elements of second-degree murder. What was this, a premeditated, intentional murder? Yes or no? Boom, done. And then the demonstrators cheered the judge's ruling. Carroll's ruling Tuesday came just as Mangione, wielding a beige jumpsuit with his wrists and ankles shackled, walked into a Manhattan courtroom in anticipation of the judge's decision on several defense motions aimed at halting or delaying his prosecution in New York State. On those, Mangione's defense received a mixed bag of ruling. Separate from their argument against the terror-related charges, Mangione's defense had sought to dismiss his murder indictment altogether because he faces federal charges for the same killing, an argument the judge rejected in the ruling Tuesday as premature. The judge also ruled Manhattan prosecutors will be unable to use any evidence they obtain from Aetna. Mangione's attorney had argued their client's medical records were wrongfully obtained from the insurance carrier. Finally, Carroll scheduled a hearing to wait another defense request to suppress evidence seized at the time of his arrest and statement he made to law enforcement. A hearing on that matter will be held on December 1st, almost 1 year to the day that prosecutors say Mangione fatally shot Thompson as the executive walked towards a hotel hosting United Healthcare's annual investor conference in Midtown Manhattan. The subsequent days-long manhunt captured nationwide attention as investigators shared details of Mangione's alleged writing in the words delay, deny, and depose written on the bullets and shell casing found at the case. The shooting was part of a surge of a political movement attack across the U.S., including last week's assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Supporters have flocked to Mangione's court hearing, often wearing green clothes and carrying signs, and Tuesday was no different. Several dozen people lined up outside Manhattan criminal court in hopes of getting inside the hearing. A group of demonstrators also gathered to show support for Mangione, including one woman who wore green head to toe, donning a shirt patterned with the face of the Luigi video game character from Nintendo Super Mario Bros. When they heard news the terrorism charge were dropped, the crowd outside the courthouse erupted into cheers. Mangione's attorney, Karen and Mark Agnifilio briefly thanked the protesters after Tuesday's hearing. Mangione has raised more than $1.2 million in an online fundraiser since his arrest last December, where donations were as small as $5. Additional donations, including several of $100 or more, poured in after the hearing. No evidence of terroristic intent, judge said. Mangione was indicted by a Manhattan grand jury last December on 11 counts, including first-degree murder and second-degree murder as a crime of terrorism, along with the other weapon and forgery charges. The first-degree murder charges allege that he killed the executive in furtherance of an act of terrorism, which is legally defined as an intent to intimidate or coerce the civilian population or a government unit. Mangione's defense had argued that the terror-related murder charges to be tossed in part because crime of terrorism as defined in the New York state legislation refer to attacks on multiple civilians, not a shooting of a single individual. Carroll evidently agreed. Prosecutors had tried pointing to two cases: the 1994 shooting of Van Hall, a Hasidic Yevashia student in Brooklyn Bridge, in the 1990 and the 1997 shooting from the observation deck of the Empire State Building, as terrorist acts had ended with just one deceased victim. But those comparisons with Thompson's killings, Carroll wrote, were misplaced, though only one person was killed in each of those cases. Multiple people were wounded, and the perpetrators had indicated much broader motivations for the act. In the case of the Empire State shooting, the gunman was seeking revenge on behalf of Palestinians, Carroll wrote, while the Brooklyn Bridge shooter was specifically targeting Jews. The defiant targeting killing of one individual, although abhorrent and despicable, it is not comparable, the judge wrote on Mangione. Carroll's decision said Jackson indicates the judge looked closely at the New York terrorism statute to determine what exactly it was meant to address. The judge noted the statute was passed days after 9/11 attack, and the statute specifically cites that attack along with the 1995 bombing of Oklahoma City Federal Building and others as example of terrorism. The judge really wanted to get a feel of what this law in New York State is all about and what it's trying to address. Jackson, it is trying to address a single solitary killing. We have laws that exist on the books that addresses one life. We want, from a broader perspective, to look at why when we had a murder statute, do we need terroristic statute, and is it designed for this? Caro found that Mangione did not intend to influence or coerce the civilian population, an element required by the state terrorism statute. Writing covered from Mangione's backpack during his arrest made clear that Mr. Mangione was not looking to terrorize any community. His attorney wrote Mangione never publicly released his private writings, which address his views on health care and includes a letter addressed to the FBI, which his attorney says prove he didn't intend to cause wide intimidation of a population. They also blamed law enforcement for leaking his writings and calling them a manifesto. This would have been an alleged murder of a man outside a hotel. Instead, the police leaked what was written on the bullets. The police leaked Mr. Mangione's alleged writing, and the police called this alleged writing a manifesto, a term synonymous with terrorism. None of this was done by Mr. Mangione. It was law enforcement that created the air of terrorism surrounding this alleged crime, and who now seek to blame Mr. Mangione to for the hysteria of fear they created. Prosecutors said in their response filing that Mangione's calculated assassination of Thompson, the CEO of the nation's largest healthcare insurance company, whom he had no personal connections to, was meant to violently broadcast a social and political message to the public at large. They also pointed to the fear felt by some United Healthcare employees after Thompson's killings. Caro, however, ruled that the employees of one company did not constitute of a civilian population. As described in the state law, he also noted federal prosecutors had not charged Mangione with a crime of terrorism, even though the federal statute served as a model of the New York State statute. While the defendant was clearly expressing an animus towards UHC and the healthcare industry generally, it does not follow that his goal was to intimidate and coerce civilian population, Caro wrote, and indeed there was no evidence presented as such goal. Caro acknowledged any killing will have a chilling effect, said Jackson, but does that in on itself mean that you intended to really harm or intimidate or influence the entirety of the population? And the judge concluded it does not. This has nothing to do with coercing an entire population. It has to do with Mangione's disdain for the particular industry, Jackson said, referring to the healthcare insurance industry. Defense cited double jeopardy. The judge also found Tuesday that the twin state and federal prosecution of Mangione did not yet presented a violation of the Constitution double jeopardy clause, which Mangione's attorney has cited on a bid to have the state charges dismissed. Mangione's attorney said it was unprecedented and untenable for Mangione to defend himself in both cases at the same time. The defense motion to dismiss the indictment cited past prosecution of high-profile mass shooting when state prosecutors deferred to their federal counterparts or declined to add state charges to the mix. Federal and state officials have said the state case will go first, which his attorneys have strongly opposed because the possible penalty is less serious than the federal death sentence he faces. The defense motion accused the district attorney's office and federal prosecutor of colluding to obstruct Mr. Mangione's ability to meaningfully defend himself. Caro was unpersuaded in his ruling Tuesday. The judge cited U.S. Supreme Court precedent that found the same criminal act can be subject to prosecution by two sovereigns, and wrote that the defendant's motion to dismiss based on double jeopardy was premature. The judge similarly shrugged off a request by Mangione's defense that he allows the federal death penalty case to proceed first. They had argued a conviction in a highly publicized prosecution could make it impossible to find an impartial jury in a later federal trial. Prosecutors balked at the defense asserts concern over publicly pointing to Mangione's regularly updated website and the case maintained by his defense team and give send go donations page, indicating he expected the state case to span about 2 months. Caro wrote, any fears the state case will prejudice Mangione's federal trial were merely speculative. Noting it could have taken several years before the federal case go on trial. When Mangione next appears in court December, the court will hear the defense request to suppress any evidence found in the backpack, including the gun, loaded magazines, and his writings, which would reveal Mangione's detailed thinking before the shooting, according to the previous court filing. They also move to suppress any statements Mangione made to law enforcement after his December 9 arrest at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, until December 19, when he was extradited to New York. Manhattan prosecutors had defended the actions and say they're open to the defense requests for Caro to hold hearings about whether those statements and the materials recovered from his backpack should be kept out of this trial. Alrighty guys, don't forget to please hit that like button. Once you like this video, it will help me get into the algorithm of people who are interested on hearing about Mangione's case. Okay, so now here's my take about this whole matter. Like I said on my previous video, and please don't forget to check them out. The link is going to be on the description box for first part 1 and part 2 of the updates of this case. Alrighty, so like I mentioned, Luigi's lawyers are very smart, very expensive, and very, very good. Okay, the fact that they turned around and blamed it all on the police to try to make it seem like this was a terrorist attack, when in fact it could have just been handled with a little more decorum and a little more sensitivity. They painted it seem like this was a murder, like Luigi Mangione was a savior of something that he is not. So again, I think that was genius. And then the second thing is, I think it was also genius how they tried to basically dismiss some federal charges on top of that, since obviously the federal charges are more serious and dire than the state charges. But like the judge mentioned, it could take years for him to get into the federal trial himself. And now that the prosecutor failed to prove how this was in fact a terrorist account, they are moving on to second-degree murder, which is still gives us a life sentence, and it still gives us a longer time in jail. However, it lightens the load a little bit instead of, you know, the death penalty like the federal court are demanding. And the other interesting fact for me is how she wants them to not involve the paperwork that was found in his backpack or the remarks he made to the cops, which now is making me interested. What did he tell the cops when he was arrested in Pennsylvania? Now I'm interested in hearing that. And so now we're just going to have to sit and wait. Apparently they're going to have only an attorney's meeting with the judge to decide whether or not they will include the content of the backpack and the information he shared with the police officers when he was arrested in Pennsylvania. But again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I can't wait for us to start having a conversation about this. Do you guys feel like this will be dismissed, especially since it's got so much attention, and it's just a very interesting publicity wise situation. It's just a public case, honestly. But I can't wait to hear what you guys got to say about this matter. This is super interesting. And what do you guys think about the girls who keep showing up every time he goes on trial? I feel like, girl, don't you got something better to do? But that's just my opinion. Again, this is Stacy's Random POV. Post your channel link for your channel in the comments, and I will gladly check out your channel. I'm the type of person that I support the people who support me. And yeah, just let me know what you guys think altogether about this entire case. Honestly, I don't think he's a martyr. I think that was the police mistake. It was to sensationalize this whole situation, and I feel like they did that because there were people online who were already sensationalizing this entire situation. But again, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and the post notification bell on so that we can keep the situation going, and so you'll know when I'm posting something as awesome as this video. See you guys on my next one, and I hope you enjoyed these upcoming clips from other creators. And again, let me know what you guys think about this situation. Subscribe so you can become a member of this village. If you love this village, you appreciate this village, because baby, it takes a village. See you next time.
The top terrorism charges were dropped against Luigi Mangione. In Manhattan Criminal Court on Tuesday, September 16th, the top 2 terrorism charges against Luigi Mangione were dropped. These charges, first-degree murder and second-degree murder as acts of terrorism, were dismissed due to insufficient evidence, according to Judge Gregory Caro, who is overseeing the case. Mangione was arrested on December 9th, 2024 for the murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare. In a written decision, Judge Caro said, counts 1 and 2, charging the defendant with murder in the first degree, in furtherance of an act of terrorism, and murder in the second degree as a crime of terrorism, are dismissed as legally insufficient. The people presented legally sufficient evidence of all other counts, including murder in the second degree, intentional. Mangione still faces federal charges, including murder through the use of a firearm, 2 counts of stalking under federal law, and a firearms offense committed during a violent crime. Additionally, he is facing state charges such as second-degree murder and weapons possession in both New York, where the crime occurred, and Pennsylvania, where he was arrested. His legal team argued that prosecuting Mangione with both state and federal charges constitutes double jeopardy, being tried twice for the same offense, but the judge rejected the claim. Outside the Manhattan Criminal Court building, a public rally was held in support of Mangione. Supporters, some wearing apparel printed with his face, chanted, "Free! Luigi! Free! Luigi! Free! Luigi! Free! Luigi! If convicted of second-degree murder, Mangione faces a sentence of 25 years to life in prison. He is scheduled to return to court on December 1st, 2025.
Luigi Mangione's attorneys are worth every penny I see. 2 of his murder charges have been dismissed by the judge. Those are the 2 charges related to terrorism. Essentially, the prosecution was arguing that Luigi Mangione is a terrorist because he was trying to threaten not just the CEO that was eliminated, but all CEOs and other healthcare workers. So it was not just a plot to target that one CEO. The judge was not buying it. He said, look, I think there's enough evidence to show that he was targeting that one CEO, but there's not enough evidence to say that he's a threat to the other civilians or other CEO or healthcare workers. But this is not the end for Luigi Mangione, because he also still has several other charges in this case, including another murder charge. He also has a federal case as well, where the feds have already said that they're seeking the death penalty, and he also has another case in New Jersey. So yes, while 2 of his charges did get tossed in this particular New York State case, he still has other cases, and some of those cases, particularly that federal death penalty case, have extremely, extremely high stakes.
I saw someone online make the statement that the only reason why Luigi Mangione has so much support is because he's hot. And I just want to remind you that first we found out that a healthcare CEO got taken out, and that's when all the Democrats and Republicans, left and right, no matter where you were on the political spectrum, said, wait a minute, I have a story about healthcare and how I got screwed over by healthcare companies too. Maybe that's why the guy got offed. And then we found out about the bullets. And we're like, whoa, what if the guy is like a Robin Hood? And then we got the picture of his eyes, right? The picture of his eyes. And we said, is he gonna, And then he got arrested. And he was hot. So no, people will still support him because of why he did it. Because they found something, common ground. It just helps that he's hot.
They cleared him of the terrorism charges. But the true crime, y'all, is this courtroom illustrator. Look at what they did to our man. They represented him like that. Were they even in the room? Look at how perfect this is the true crime. This is the terrorism. Come to the front, illustrator.
Guys, my baby got his terrorism charges dropped! First of all, his mug, sickening. Second, I feel like you guys forgot I was the head of Luigi Nation. I had someone slide into my DMs when I posted about the terrorism charges being dropped, and they were like, oh, so you support people like innocently being shot and killed? And I'm like, whoa. First of all, I don't relate what's going on between me and my man to that Charlie XCX character. I didn't know who that man was last week. I don't really care to know who he is in the future. I have nothing to do with that. I let you freaks have your moment. I stayed quiet, but me and my man have been going on for almost a year now. You let us live, okay? Let me celebrate something. Anyway, it's been months, and like, where's the evidence, doll? What's going on with the prosecutors? Like, what's happening here? He's just chilling there. I see that he didn't get a haircut this time, but I'm sure he's like trying to look like, like disgruntled. Like, why am I here? What's the point of all of this? Like, I don't know, but you look healthy. You have clearer skin than people who are not even in the pen. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, doll? When he does get out, though, how do we feel about him being on Dancing with the Stars? You guys gave it to Anna Delvey?
This is Luigi in court today. He had hoped to wear a suit, a tie, dress shoes, but the court staff said no to that request, so he ended up having to wear his jail-issued khakis. He also had shackles around his waist, handcuffs. You see him here, as I saw him today in court, looking around, paying attention, listening to his attorneys as the judge announced that he was dropping 2 terrorism-related charges against him. He now faces 9 state charges, but he is also, of course, facing those federal charges, which include the death penalty.
Luigi Mangione notched a major legal victory here in Manhattan State Court yesterday when a judge said he can't be prosecuted for terrorism, but he still faces a long legal road ahead, including a murder charge carrying life and potentially the death penalty in federal court. Next up for Mangione, the 27-year-old defendant accused of shooting a healthcare executive, will be suppression hearings over evidence in state court. He says that a notebook with writings of his was taken without a warrant and that his statements were taken without proper Miranda warnings. A New York State Court judge will ultimately rule on whether the prosecution can use that evidence at trial. Down the block in federal court on Friday, Mangione will argue against the death penalty, saying it's unconstitutional.
let me explain the brilliant legal strategy that Luigi's lawyers used to get his 2 top state charges dismissed. First-degree murder in furtherance of an act of terrorism, dismissed. Second-degree murder as a crime of terrorism, also dismissed. Prosecutors probably felt confident bringing these charges. They had bullets engraved with delay and deny. They had his manifesto talking about the healthcare industry. So they thought, we have an airtight case here that shows he was trying to scare the public and make a point like a terrorist. But here's the thing, Luigi's married legal team geniusly flipped the script. And they argued, no, it was not Mangione who scared the public. It was in fact the police. It was law enforcement. They are the ones who released the manifesto. They are the ones who released what was written on the bullet. Their client Luigi was just writing things in private. That manifesto was found in his backpack. He didn't publish it online. He didn't send it to newspapers. In fact, they argue he was not trying to scare the public. And it looks like the judge agreed because it is not terrorism to act on a belief. It is only terrorism if you are trying to scare, intimidate, or coerce the public or influence a government policy.
So what's the difference between this guy and this guy? Well, this guy's actions are the kind that freak out the masses, the population. Whereas this guy's actions freak out the people in charge. And a lot of people are rightfully asking, why is this guy not viewed with the same kind of, I don't want to say adulation, but the same kind of understanding that this guy is? Well, that's actually pretty simple. What this dude did, absolutely wrong, without question. Again, doesn't matter if I like or didn't like Charlie. Doesn't matter if you like or didn't like Charlie Kirk. This guy is an assassin. And he's going to go to jail forever. And there's nobody who can condone what he did. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's going to be a few people who are going to condone what he did, but no. No, unfortunately, this guy, not unfortunately, rightfully so, this dude should go to jail forever. But you may or may not have heard, but the judge threw out the whole terrorism charge against Mr. Mangione here. One wonders why. Well, probably because the pushback over this guy's actions have really shocked the elite, the powers that be. Now look, the Oracle of Omaha warned, 24 years ago, that the actions of income inequality, where he was talking about his secretary, I mean, here you got Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest men in the world, probably the wealthiest, purest capitalist in the world, talking about the fact that his secretary paid more in taxes than he did. He said that's insane, per capita. Like, in other words, percentage-wise, she paid more than he did. And he's like, that's not sustainable. And he's not wrong. Luigi Mangione, what he did was wrong. I'm not saying it's not right. What I'm saying is, people said, okay, health insurance companies are some of the most guiltiest institutions in this country of, by action or inaction, murdering innocent people. I don't think anybody can argue that. When you have somebody who is a dermatologist telling a cardiologist that they know what's best given a procedure, that's insane. When you have insurance that just runs out mid-treatment because somehow it's defined as no longer viable, and then that person succumbs to whatever they were suffering from, that's murder, man. I don't know how else you can call it anything but that. I mean, honest to God, there are times I wonder, people working in health insurance companies, how they actually look in a mirror and not see the monsters that they are by what they do. Well, we have a fiduciary responsibility. These are human beings you are sacrificing. Well, we just can't help everybody. Fine. Then stop existing and push for universal health care. Oh, no, but we want to make money. That's where you trip over the line. That's where you falter. You want to have your cake and eat it too. And then you want to go ahead and siphon off and say, well, we're not to blame. But you are to blame. You absolutely are. And this guy called you out on it. And you don't like the pushback that you've seen from the masses of people who are all supporting this cat. Luigi Mangione and Tyler Robinson are two completely different people. I don't mean that, as in actuality. I'm talking about metaphorically. They are completely different ideologically. Mangione saw what a corrupt, twisted, perverted system the United States healthcare program has become. And he's not wrong. He's wrong for what he did, but he's not wrong for believing that system is as perverse, twisted, and corrupt as it has become. I'm not saying what he did was right. I'm not. But if you are an insurance company and you're not seeing this and going, maybe we're pushing a little too far, maybe we're rolling a little too hard, maybe we're doing things a little too wrong for the sake of profits, and you don't understand that's what drove this man to do what he did, then you're just an idiot. I mean, seriously, you're just an idiot. Again, I'm not condoning what he did. What I'm saying is you have to understand. From his perspective, he's probably thinking, dude, how many of us have they killed? A lot more than one. Oh, but they didn't mean to do it. Really? If I had a company and I didn't mean to accidentally kill thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people, but I'm in health insurance, somehow that makes it okay? What? Yeah. I don't think so. That's not how that works. And yet somehow the laws are written by these corporations to make sure they're completely protected from their own actions. Luigi Mangione said enough is enough. And as you can tell, even the courts are saying, look, we better back off this because this is not looking good for us. You've got people literally cheering for this guy. That's not a good sign. And what's worse is that the masses, they understand why that cheering is happening. So are him and Tyler Robinson equitable? Not even close. They're not even in the same universe. Tyler Robinson's going to go to jail forever. This guy now is looking at possibly parole. Long time down the road. And again, I'm not condoning what he did. What I am saying is, I look at Tyler Robinson, I'm like, bro, you're a psychopath, man. I mean, you went X this guy out. You may not like what he said, but what? This guy was like, how many innocent people have died at these people's hands? And nobody will do anything. Again, the way he did it, not right. But if you don't understand why, I don't know what to tell you, partner. And that is news for thought.